Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me well? If you can hear me, can you please point that out in chat? Yeah, I can. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining me today on our webinar, How to Hire the Best Startup Talent. It's great to be here. I want to start quickly introducing myself. I am Alex Vinov, and I've been in outsourcing and building remote development teams for the last 7 years. And now I'm doing that with Alchemist companies and also contribute on this matter to some magazines like Forbes. And about 2 years ago, I sold my fintech business to focus on solving the problem of demand for tech personnel. And I'm also an angel investor. So if anybody here is looking for equity investors, please write to me. We can talk about this later. But to carry on, I'd like to introduce our special guest. Um, and This is the man who has been researching the issues of talent recruitment and retainment and how to make work of talents, the most efficient. And he was named the top 100 in UK HR tech influencer this year, Mr. Mervyn Dinnen. Uh, Hello, Mervyn.
Hello, Alex. Thank you very much for that. My name is Mervyn Dinnen, and I'm going to start talking to you about obviously how to hire the best startup talent. That is Alex's background.
Yeah.
A little bit about me, HR Talent Trends Analyst. I'm an author. I've co-authored 2 books, Exceptional Talent and Digital Talent, that was released, that was published 3 or 4 months ago. I'm a writer. I create thought leadership content alongside tech companies, and I speak. And as Alex has just pointed out, I'm one of the top 100 influencers. And these are the kind of reports that I write. These are some of the most recent ones, and they're the kind of where I get the data to talk to you about problems like this one. And it is obviously a challenge to hire for startups. I'm going to cover, I suppose, 5 areas while we're talking here, looking at the kind of unique challenges and opportunities when hiring for startups, developing a high quality recruitment process that will attract and engage, the importance of candidate experience, how to create a great one, how personalization, storytelling can really engage the talent you want, and then we'll deal with any questions you have. And I think Alex would like to say something too.
Yeah. I think to get a little bit more interactive, I think we would like to run a couple of polls. There are 2 questions that I want to ask our visitors. How many candidates do you hire every month or per month or in the last couple of months? And how long does it take you to find a new talent? I think we're going to pause for 5 seconds for everybody to vote, whoever wants to. And I think if everybody can now see the results of the vote, so it's all live.
Yeah. Well, for most people, I can see it takes up to a couple of months. In fact, for 3/4 of people, it takes either a couple of months or even longer. So it is a slow process. I'm going to kind of be talking about how we can maybe speed that up a little bit. It's fairly split between kind of 0 to 2 and 3 to 5. So no one is hiring heavily, shall we say. The most being hired by the looks of it's about 5.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt. And it's interesting that even in this market, when things are slowing down, we still see that people are hiring. That's a good sign for economy. And but there takes a lot of time to get good candidates. That's true even in our case.
It is. And that's one of the challenges. I mean, in terms of startups, I suppose the challenges are kind of vision and mission. It's a startup. It's very personal. I'll cover that over the next few minutes. Validating the commercial proposition, If you don't have much of a track record, candidates that you might be talking to, that you might be very keen on hiring, might be looking for something a bit more established. They need some kind of validation or collateral. Changing jobs, as I'll come to in a later slide, is a very personal thing for a lot of people, and they don't want to make a mistake. There is a strategic competitive advantage that you need to exercise, because it's a bit of a clean slate. Transparency, it's one of the big things, how to be transparent and how to sell the opportunity without over-promising, but without obviously underselling the organization. So it's not an easy one to balance. Digital talent, which is I've written a book about, this is what you're looking to hire. And I suppose there's 5 things that I wanted to raise about the kind of people you're looking to hire. I mean, the specialists in your area that you want, but overall, my research for the book showed that they have intellectual curiosity, which is an interesting expression, but they really are interested in kind of how jobs are evolving, how the technology is evolving, how they can actually play a part in that. They really want to kind of, understand how their roles are changing and what impact they can have. They like learning new skills in real time so they can meet challenges as they arise. This puts an onus on the organization to have, I suppose, access to knowledge and learning as and when people need it, as opposed to having it at set times. Again, sometimes with a startup, with a smaller, younger company, that fluidity of learning is possibly easier. Wanting access to what they need to know as and when they need it. Sometimes it's not so easy to have that set up at the beginning. And they look for support, enablement, and connection. And one of the research things that I identified was this change. Previously, a lot of management within businesses was about management and direction. We talked about performance management and things like that, and people, took direction over what they should be doing. But what we're finding, a lot of the digital talent now, they just want support. They just want you to support and enable them to be able to achieve their best and to do the best work they can. And a lot of this is around connection within the business. They look to build connections within the business with people, with integrators, suppliers. It's very important to them. Startups do have a unique appeal. It's a unique value proposition, and funding, backing, the personalization of the founders. I mean, Alex has been talking. People will be interested in hearing it from, the founders, as opposed to obviously a larger, more established organization where they're hearing it from hiring managers. They do need collateral for real validation. So that's something you kind of possibly easier to supply. There's a redefinition of ownership. A lot of people who look to join startup companies, ownership, well, there is the hope, I suppose, that they could get some kind of stake in the business. Obviously, that by some is offered, and that is something to consider. But there's ownership of what the business is doing, ownership of the process, ownership of the product. There's a real sense of purpose people have about being part of that. Startups tend to offer quite competitive salaries. They can be a lot more flexible about the benefits. So if you're attracting, I suppose, younger people, for example, things like paid time off, things like parental support, that kind of thing is important to them. And larger, more structured organizations might not be able to offer things like that. One of the things that we find people looking for is some kind of well-being support. Again, large organizations struggle with that a bit, whereas younger, more nimble organizations are able to supply that. Strategic competitive advantage, that's what they love to see in an organization, because they know that they can make an impact and the business is moving ahead. And obviously startups as well, by their very size and nature, can move quicker. They're much more nimble. Large organizations will put them through layers of people they have to be interviewed by and meet and stuff, whereas again, startups can be a lot more nimble. The talent marketplace itself is difficult to navigate. You probably read plenty kind of in the digital news media and stuff on social media channels every day, be it LinkedIn, Twitter, or whatever. Kind of if people can't find the specialist skills, retention's a problem. We've been through a period of what we call the Great Resignation and the Great Reassessment and the Great Rehiring, and quiet quitting is obviously the one that people are talking about now. So it's a very fluid marketplace. The internal talent market is important. You'll probably find yourself able to hire somebody who actually probably could have done the same thing had they stayed in an organization. But a lot of organizations aren't really in touch with their internal talent markets. So, that's a good opportunity for you. There's a stat that's from the US from 2-3 years ago that almost 2/3 of people say it's easier to find a new job in another company than it is to change jobs in the one they're in. And that's a great advantage for you. Speed is important. People won't stay on the market a long time if they see something that engages them. If they meet an organization they really believe in, they're going to want to move. Quality of hire is another issue for the talent marketplace overall, because different organizations will evaluate quality of hire in different ways. Again, for a more nimble startup, you can maybe look at it as to output, what people are able to achieve, as opposed to maybe how long they stay with you. You've got to balance the need for speed because you need to get it right. Speed is often about internal pressures, because you will have stakeholders, particularly in a young business, who want somebody straight away, who don't want to wait, don't want to hang around. They don't want to lose good candidates to other organizations. This impacts the candidate experience, which I'll be talking about in a moment, because this is crucial to hiring today, is the experience candidates get. And it's something that I think startups can have a big impact on. And diversity as well. It's kind of, people do like to know that there is this kind of unbiased feel to the hiring, and you aren't cutting corners by just hiring people very similar to the ones you already have.
Actually, I wanted to add to the last slide if I can. A lot of times, my experience in startups and in my current startup as well is that a lot of times the priorities change quickly, tasks change quickly, and sometimes it's even makes it worthwhile considering outsourcing some of the non-core functions, so that the guys that you actually bring in onto your core functions, they can focus on that, creating value in that particular field. Just to add to the last, the balance and need for speed slide.
No, that is really important. High quality recruitment processes. Now, this is giving you, I suppose, an insight into what's happening in the market in general, particularly around tech hiring. We did some research earlier in the year, and some of the things that we found out about what makes a great quality recruitment process. They're continually measured and optimized. So you've continually got to look at the recruitment process. If you start hiring and you get 2 or 3 good people in, it might be that you struck lucky. You've got to continually look at and find out from the candidates what appealed to them. Was there anything that you could have done differently? And optimize the bits that they say, look, this was really good because I saw other organizations that didn't do that. And obviously if they say, well, I wasn't sure at that point, but you constantly need to be agile and look at those things. Trust between internal stakeholders, everybody in the business, even if people are hiring for their own areas, everybody in the business needs to have trust between them, because you're only going to get the best people in if everybody is doing the same thing. And some people in the business feel that they can kind of input to others. So it's, look, I've seen this person, not right for me, maybe for you, or that kind of thing. Share market information as well. Assessing candidates in a way that identifies potential is hugely important. Yes, you're probably going to meet people and be interested in them on the basis of what they've done before, but a lot of it is about potential. And there's an increasing, particularly in the technology space, of candidates who are moving jobs, wanting that potential identified. Going back a few slides, I said, digital talent has intellectual curiosity. They want access to knowledge for their jobs to evolve. And this is important. Interviews are key, and using technology to analyze interviews to see maybe who in your organization is doing better interviews, who is getting the best results, what are the kind of questions which seem to pull out more interesting answers. that is important. The real key to speed of hiring is how quickly you can arrange an interview. It's a lovely quote I like, but a lot of organizations find that it takes a long time to arrange the internal interviews because people have competing pressures. Something as a more nimble, agile, younger business that you can do is actually get to interview people quite quickly. And then automation, speeding up the process. If the process is too long and there's too many hoops and it's like we need to see another 2 or 3 people before we hire, you'll lose them. So it's important. Those, I suppose, are, to me, the 6 most important factors in a high quality recruitment process.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in here. I had a question for you. In my startup experience, it was setting up the quality recruitment process. It actually takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of parties that have to play together and to work together to get a high quality process. So whichever is better, I'd say you would recommend, or how to decide whether you would go with recruitment or go with hiring. Headhunting. Just getting the best person out there, paying the extra price, but getting that right here, right now, as opposed to setting up a recruitment process, which can take time.
Yeah, I suppose in some respects it's a mixture of both. So in some organization, and I'm not trying to find kind of an easy answer there, you will find, particularly in startups, there will be an element of headhunting, people approaching people they know. So you'll get some early stage people in and say, look, I used to work here. There's a really good person there who do really well here. So you kind of do get that. But you need to, if you're going to scale and grow, you need the process. Because otherwise you'll find yourself, when you do need to fill gaps, or maybe some of your early stage employees move for whatever reason, it might be a personality clash, it might be they get headhunted for a better offer. If you don't have the process, then it's kind of a process that is optimized and is not just random, shall we say. Then you'll struggle to get people in. You'll find you're losing them.
Sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, and at what size of organization do you think the process starts to make sense more than trying to to work with somebody that you worked at a previous organization? 20 people, 50. What's your good number? Yes.
I would say, there's no obvious answer. It can work, once you've got your first 10 people, it may pay to have a process, because your next, I suppose the next group of people that you want, for example, might be more administrative. They might be more marketing based. They might be more, and so you would need a process that can identify fits across maybe different sectors. But I think that, yes, initially in smaller organizations, startups, it will tend to be, people you know of, or people you've worked with before, or people who you meet who say, look, I used to work with this person who I think would be really good for this opportunity. This opportunity is not right for me, but I think it'd be great for them. So that I think in the startup phase at the very beginning is easier, but I think you need to develop a process as you go, and sometimes it just iterates. It's kind of, you do the right things, and it kind of evolves into a process. So it's kind of, I'm not trying to give you both answers, but I think it depends on the organization, it depends on you, the founders, it depends on the circumstances as well, and the kind of people you're looking to bring in.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting subject, because I'm sure a lot of people will resonate with that, because when you grow, it's always the question: do you want to do it fast, or do you want to do it right? And I think obviously everybody has their own answer. I know organizations that have 100 people and they still do not have a recruitment manager or hiring or HR person, so they end up with no processes, and somehow they manage to do it. I personally don't know how they can do it, because every time when I do it above the 20 people, I need somebody to have that process, like a process owner in that respect. But yeah, it's a very interesting subject matter. Yeah, thank you.
No, that's fine. In terms of the candidates, what do candidates expect? What do they think a great recruitment process is? Well, funnily enough, it's fast and it gets offered to them quickly. A great experience. I'm going to be talking about the candidate experience soon, because that's something that often in smaller, younger startup companies is not something that you've evolved yet. It's fair. Candidates moving increasingly, want to know that I suppose the process is unbiased. That you are finding the best person you can. For candidates, they want to know that it's improving all the time. So it's kind of that they like, I suppose, if they're going to be hired by a company, they're not aware that you've measured it, questioned it, optimized it. But yeah, that's the only way you can give them, I suppose, a great experience, by finding out if people drop out the process, why was it? If people say, look, I've kind of accepted another offer, it's too long, at what stage? It's by constantly, I suppose, improving it. And also, to be honest, a great recruitment process just helps validate their interest. It's like kind of, I'm keen to join this organization, and they're proving it to me by the way they're hiring me. It's brilliant. So that's what a great process kind of is for candidates. Now, candidate experience, I keep saying, is very important. And I've got some stats on that. These stats came from a research project I was involved with about 2-3 years ago, where we surveyed 14,000 job seekers in Europe. And I think it's important to just say what the headline stats here are. 86%, that's a huge majority. The way they're treated during application and interview will impact their decision on whether to join. And I'll have some stats on the next slide to show that actually they could be really interested in you and they have a bad experience and then they decide not to join. 72% will share details online. They'll share a bad candidate experience. If they don't like the way they're treated, they will take to, it could be Glassdoor, or it might be, if you're a new young business, it's not Glassdoor yet, but certainly LinkedIn, Twitter, places like that. Private Facebook groups. Don't underestimate Facebook groups, particularly amongst developers, amongst marketing people. They've all got their own Facebook groups where they will talk about these things. Over half will avoid applying to companies who have negative reviews. IBM research from a few years ago showed that satisfied candidates are more than twice as likely to recommend an organization, whether or not they received an offer. So you will get people say, you know what, I saw Insquad, they were great. They didn't offer me, I was gutted, but I would recommend anybody. People are lovely, they really know how to hire. That kind of thing says a lot. 87%, so that's a huge majority, say a great recruitment experience will change their mind. So they might not be interested in your company, but the experience you give them is so good, they think, actually, I'm going to give these guys a chance. Flip side, a negative experience, particularly around interviews and feedback, can change their mind. They might like you and think, you know what, I'm not, I don't know about this. The way they've treated me and they've not come back to me, and I'm not sure they're for me. So
can I jump in here, because I think it's a huge number. Yeah. I mean, it seems like a lot of decision-making process on a candidate side actually is made not because of what is the substance of the work that the candidate is offered, or his financial package or anything, but of the recruitment process itself. So they actually devise a lot of information about how the organization functions from this recruitment process. Is that in fact correct, what you're trying to say, implying?
Yeah, it's the way they're hired. So it's a lot of it might come down to the person who's doing the hiring. A lot of it might come down to, because again, a small young company probably won't have an HR department, they won't have a learning and development department to kind of talk. So it's the kind of feel they get from the people, and if they feel uncomfortable with it, so it's taking a long time for you to come back, or it's we've got to get this hire right, we really like you but we want to see 5 more people, and those are the kind of things that they would turn into a negative experience. I appreciate that in the data that I've just shared, some of that, obviously a lot of that is driven by more established organizations where candidates who are on interview will read a lot into how they're treated as a candidate. They'll think that's how they'll be treated as an employee. But for smaller and startup organizations, it can be the same. It can be, you know, how serious are these people? How, you know, it all seems very, you know, kind of off the cuff. It's kind of, I interviewed 2 weeks ago. I still don't have any feedback. I don't even know if they're going to call me back again. It's kind of, you know, the expectations will be higher, but it's human nature, I suppose. In fact, the quote I've got up there comes from Talent Board, who run the Candidate Experience Awards in the US, which is an annual award scheme for those who offer the best candidate experience. And it's not like a trophy or something, you know. It's kind of the people are ranked, and what you find is that every year it's not the same organizations who are ranked the highest. And Kevin Grossman is the guy who runs this, and he was asked about, you know, what do the best in class companies do? And he says the ones that rank consistently highly tend to be those that communicate more often and more consistently from, you know, first to last touch point. So it's very much that communication. I'm going to share some candidate experience tips in a moment about kind of keeping people in the loop. They always know what's going on. There's always got feedback. They're not left kind of not understanding kind of where they are, or, you know, if you're interested in them, or if you're maybe not interested in them, what it is. That's the kind of thing they're very keen to know. There are 5 ways to deliver a great candidate experience. So I might go through this a little bit quickly because I've got a few other points to make, but I kind of want you to take away the key points on this. Giving value, empowering candidates, iterating. So it's not just, you know, again, it might be difficult in the early days of a startup to keep iterating the way you do things, but it's important to be flexible. Personalizing it's hugely important for candidates of any size of organization, and being authentic. That's what they're really interested in. Empowering them. This is important because candidates don't, a lot of organizations look at 9 to 5, or it's not quite 9 to 5, but you know what I mean. They look at a working day. Most candidates don't look at a working day. It's kind of, you know, job searching is 24/7. So it's kind of, you know, a lot of tasks that are done as part of the recruitment process need to be done asynchronously. The obvious one is interviewing, where, you know, asynchronous interviews where you preset a number of questions and candidates can answer in their own time. There was research shared a few years ago from some of the video interviewing companies that when you do that, the kind of times that candidates will answer those questions might be kind of, you know, 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening, or you know, it's not 9 to 5 during the working week. It's kind of at odd times when they feel relaxed. They haven't got much going on, and that's when they can deal with them. Some candidates, if they're really keen on an opportunity, don't want to wait till the next day to hear back. If they can go online and do the next stage that day, that afternoon, that evening, that's what they want to do. So self-scheduling interviews and things, realistic job previews, they really understand what it is you want to do. And they feel they have a level of control in the process, improving experience all the time. I don't know if you want to add anything, Alex?
Actually, not. I don't. Well, I would only think about other, like, any maybe key mistakes to avoid when setting up a hiring process that you could think of, like top 3.
I will answer that after I've been through these, because I will come to the kind of the,
okay.
Therefore the conclusion is kind of thing.
Okay.
The continually iterating is important because the candidate experience are dozens of touch points or micro experiences. If you think that every email, every task they do, every person they speak to, it might not even be, they might be speaking to the person who isn't going to hire them, but the person hiring them isn't available. So you're constantly looking at all those touch points, immediate opportunities to experiment and say, well, yeah, how can we do better? And simple testing can organize that. Is probably, if you're a startup, you won't be using, I suppose, an assessment organization like SHL, for example, but these are the kind of things those guys can do. And then obviously, if you make changes, as you make changes along the way to your hiring, iterating, seeing what makes the biggest difference. And again, that's a measurement thing. And if you're not hiring in big numbers, it's not, I appreciate it's not so easy. I'm trying to, I suppose, set up the guidelines here of what you can do. And particularly as we're talking about startups, it's easier to do the iterations because it doesn't have to go through levels of approval and kind of, you're not hiring hundreds at the same time kind of thing. Personalizing it, this is really important. I've got a section on personalization later, but one of the things that the research that I've been involved in, certainly over the last 6 to 9 months, shows that the job candidates, just like consumers, respond to this personalization of messaging. So consumer experiences are hyper targeted. So it's kind of you subscribe for Netflix, you don't get an email saying thanks for the application. Thanks for the subscription. We'll let you know within 36 hours if you've been accepted. It's kind of something that happens all the time. Job applications are highly personal. You may approach people to headhunt them, but you don't know the reasons why they might move. It might be personal in that they might be the main breadwinner in the family. They might have caring responsibilities, parental responsibilities. There are whole hopes and expectations is an expression I like. When people change jobs, they obviously have high hopes and expectations. And it's a very personal thing. And there's plenty of research that shows that people who make a job move and it doesn't work out can have quite a hard time with themselves as well as to how they took the job, why they didn't rationalize it. So it is important. They apply as individuals and expect to be treated as individuals. I think that, again, is important. So you might be interviewing a few people for a role, but each person is an individual and they want their individual, I suppose, expectations met. Automation is obviously a way to kind of keep the information flow so that they always know, every candidate should know where they stand in the process at all times. And authenticity, again, Alex.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I actually had Matthew from our webinar is asking about if you could switch to the previous slide. If he's asking if you have any scripts for personalization that you could recommend.
Any
scripts?
Oh, scripts.
Yeah, like when you contact person,
Oh, I see. No, well, I wasn't. Not really. I mean, I've got a bit on personalization and storytelling coming afterwards, so I'll try and use it in that. I mean, there isn't really a script. I mean, obviously, if you're mass hiring, it's kind of, you see it on LinkedIn, you see it, it's kind of like there is possibly a script. I mean, I many years ago worked for a recruitment agency, and obviously every call we had a script to go through. So it for this, because of the organization, because it's quite personal. Particularly when you're hiring in a smaller organization, a startup, you're much closer to the founders and the key people who've set it up. I suppose it's not so much a script, it's just authenticity. It's kind of, being personal, and the way you tell your story, it means something to the individual.
Well, I think so. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, I think one thing I could definitely maybe comment on that is that maybe not a script, but maybe like a checklist of things, not to forget when communicating with the candidate, so that to contact him right after he was on the interview, like, to send him an email and in 2 days to follow on, so on and so forth. So that kind of checklist may be helpful, but I think, it could be easily devised from your past experience.
Yeah, I mean, I can do something probably afterwards that everybody watching, I can maybe connect with or send something to. But yeah, I mean, because we're talking about the startups, it's quite personal. And yes, people are probably going to expect more of an immediate, the standard. If you're a huge organization, it's kind of thank you for the interview. We've enjoyed meeting you. We've got 12 more people to interview and we'll get back to you. That's the kind of thing that obviously doesn't particularly work, and that's more important for a startup organization to have that personal contact. So yes, after the interaction, to go back to somebody quite quickly, thank them for their time, and let them know when they might hear something as well, not just, if it's going to be, we need to have an internal conversation here, we'll get back to you. Give them a frame, let them know where they stand. The most important point of this is usually with feedback. And that's the thing, particularly if there's been an interview, be it a phone screening, be it a one-to-one interview, either through Zoom or in person. It's getting the feedback from that is the bugbear, shall we say, for most candidates. Sometimes it never comes, and if it does, it's not very informative.
Yeah, one of the things I just wanted to add, one of the things that we at Insquad found that gets a great response from candidates, especially in the tech space, is when you give them a personal development plan for 6, 12, maybe 18 months. So they actually see that when you make them an offer, that it is something, that you've thought well about who that person is, what his goals may be, and how his personal goals may correlate with the company goals in the course of the next few years, when he or she will be with the company. And that improved conversion to hire substantially for us.
Okay. The authenticity one, I won't, is kind of being authentic. That's what people look for. And again, as a startup, what you probably won't be is corporate. What you probably won't be is some kind of corporate speak, where it's kind of they're not getting to the real, I suppose, the real kind of what's behind what's going on. I think the most important one there is the genuine content. Hiring managers, employees, candidates want the real story of what it's like to work there, and what can really be, because sometimes in interviews it can be quite guarded, and that's what they really want. I suppose the authentic, real stories of people who work there, who have worked there, and of the people who they're meeting during the hiring process, kind of why they're there, what their vision is. Those are the kind of things that can make a big difference.
Yeah, I actually like example from the customer discovery techniques. When you ask people open and very personal questions, I think they also seem to work well to build a relationship with the candidate. And thank you very much for this part. Now we're going to have a short Q&A session, but before we dive there, I wanted to run a short poll. The question would be, if you lose a candidate that are interested in during the hiring process, what is the usual reason they would give if they give one? Now, everybody, if you can now do the poll, there is a button on your right side. We're gonna wait maybe 10 seconds here for everybody to vote. So I guess, yeah, we see that definitely that the counter offer from some other organization has been the top answer. Well, I guess that answer includes a lot of people who didn't want to disclose any other reasons not to hurt your feelings when you ask them.
Yeah,
at least
true.
that in my experiences works quite often as well.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I suppose the important thing is, if they've received an offer from elsewhere and accepted, if you've developed a good rapport with them, and the kind of personalization thing I'm talking about is there, you will have an opportunity to maybe drill down a little bit more on that. Is it purely the time? Because obviously the one before was hiring is taking too long. Is it not sure about the opportunity? Is it just, it's maybe another organization, another business, or could also be a startup, has also approached them and is maybe a bit more specific about the opportunity, or maybe they've just I suppose the people they've met have been more impressive, for example. So it's always useful to know why, and sometimes we have to take the rejection. I mean, obviously some of the candidates we're interviewing we're going to reject, And sometimes it's important to learn from why. So as you say, Alex, yeah, I've got another offer is a very easy way of kind of not kind of closing the door should an opportunity arise again in the future. But if you've developed a nice rapport with them, it might be possible to find out a little bit more.
Yeah, it's interesting how the techniques from sales marketing department have evolved to the recruitment process and to actually selling the candidate the opportunity these days, right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this session. Now we have a short Q&A break. Any questions out there? The ones that I've seen is that the question to Mervyn, to yourself, if you could let us know if the industry that you're hiring in makes a difference in the hiring process. So suppose if you are hiring in, I don't know, in IT, or if you're hiring in chemicals or anything else, how does it depend on the hiring process?
It will do, but the principles of the hiring process are the same. So the things I've said about candidate experience and the importance it doesn't matter. It could be a utilities company, a pharmaceutical company, a chemicals company, an IT company. A great candidate experience is still important. So it could do, yes, because there will be certain industries that might need to put candidates through a more kind of technical phases of the interview to check their knowledge and to check their, I suppose, previous experience. It might be as well that, if you're a startup business in maybe one of the creative industries or IT or something, there's a lot of strong personalities, strong characters. So you might need to establish if that's a good fit. Whereas, it might be if it's a consulting firm, for example, it might be that you have to check, I suppose, whilst I write about unbiased hiring, and if you keep hiring people who are the same, then you won't have the breadth of kind of experience and knowledge there. But it is in the early days, there obviously needs to be a fit, and that can be a fit by having people who are maybe quite different to each other, which is again how a lot of I suppose the spark happens in smaller businesses. So yeah, it can make a difference, but the principles of candidate experience are the same across all industries.
Great, thank you very much. Actually, yeah. So ultimately, you got to understand that you always work with people, and everybody is somewhat different, but general principles apply to any industry out there. We do have a question about how to find a convenient candidate for a startup to avoid mishiring. Mervyn, do you think you could answer that one? Because this is like a very general question. I'm not quite sure what does convenient entail here.
I mean, with startups, it will probably be quite often somebody who the founders know or have worked with before, or the founders might bring in people at the second round of hiring. They will know people they've worked with before, so there will be an element of that. If we get through, I suppose, all the stuff, there's something around the personalization and storytelling that I come to later, and that sometimes you can go online, particularly something like LinkedIn or something, and you can really tell good stories about the business, and that can get people interested. And that way you can get the kind of, somebody can be looking at that and say, actually, this doesn't look for me, but guy I used to work with, or woman I used to work with, will really like this kind of thing. I wonder if they've seen this. I'll let them know. So it's a very different way. Now you're talking about mishiring, so I don't know if you mean kind of like personality fit or something. In which case, some of the steps that we've already said will be important, but also it's going to be important in a startup to have a broad range of people, because you need a broad range of perspectives, because you don't necessarily know exactly which direction the business is going to go. So you do need quite a broad range of inputs, and sometimes if there's too much people referring people they've worked with before, you get kind of groupthink. So it's kind of, there's no easy answer to a question like that, other than it is hard for startups and smaller organizations, obviously, to make a noise out there, which is why it tends to be networks, personal referrals, networks, people putting the word out and actually getting the story out about the business, whether it's social media, whether it's within different groups, to get the story out so people say, oh, I'm interested in that. Sounds like an interesting business. Many different ways. So there's not there's no one obvious way.
Yeah, well, I like about the storytelling a lot. I think it really works well. Yeah, let's carry on, because we got not too much time left.
Okay. Okay. Well, as we don't have a lot of time left, I might go a little bit quickly here, so people will have a chance to ask any more questions. So, personalization, automated human-centric recruitment. It's most recruitment is automated. It's digitized. We have conversational chatbots. We have AI. We even in a startup, particularly a tech startup, and sometimes people want to feel that it's human. They are speaking to humans. They are being hired as humans, so they want to work as humans. And I think it's important. And the way we do that is by telling stories. So storytelling is a huge thing. I'm taking some stuff from a guy called Shane Snow, who's done a lot of work and written books and done a number of podcast interviews about storytelling for business, how to really tell the story of your business to engage people, to get people interested. And there's loads of storytelling isn't just, hey, this is us, we got together, we started this business, this is what we do. It's kind of it's who you are, what's the history. It's, I suppose, playing on the experiences you've got, content, getting information out there. This is what we're going to be doing, this is how we're going to be doing it. Maybe something a bit creative. It's busy out there. The talent marketplace is certainly busy and challenging all the time. And so creative ways of maybe getting your story across, reaching out to people, sharing. You want people to talk about you. That, as I said earlier, is one of the ways, a new startup business creates a bit of noise, telling stories about yourself online. And others say, look, you should be talking to these guys. It's kind of, it's not for me, but you'll love guys like this. Look at their story. It's just, so it's really telling it as creatively as you can, but knowing what that story is. And sometimes it's the mindset of the founders. It's the belief. This is what drives us. This is our passion. And it's almost the personal behind we're not corporate in a startup, but it's the personal behind the business. This is what drives us. This is what we believe in. And that's the kind of story you want to tell. And that's what people will buy into.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's a mixture. It's culture, it's values, it's the mission of the business, any brand you have or any brand you're looking to create, and it's the passion. People who are going to join emerging younger businesses, and I mean younger, I don't mean in the age of the founders, I mean younger as in it hasn't been around for that long. It's the passion that people will respond to. And a lot of that is the culture, values, mission, brand, can lead into the passion. So I mean, it's kind of, people want to work for people who are really passionate about what they do, and they tend to want to work with people who are passionate about what they do. And if you say to me, well, what about somebody that just wants to come in, do their job, go home? Those people won't often, in my experience, go and work for a startup. Go and work for a creative startup. They'll probably go for something a little bit more structured. Shane Snow, I mentioned great stories build relationships. They make people care. Getting people interested in your story, caring about what you do, is a great way to hire. It's kind of, even if initially, as I say, you see stories shared online, you see people, say, have you seen this? God, this looks an interesting organization. Look what they've written here. It's kind of, you have a relationship with it. It makes you care, like, wow, these look to be really interesting people. And it's a way to hire, particularly as a startup, because it's the passion, it's the culture, the values, the mission is the story you've got. and that's what will get people involved. Yes, there might be a financial aspect if you kind of, grow quickly and are bought out or whatever. It's kind of, people look for that as well. But to actually be part of it, they need to buy into something more. So effective storytelling, something recognizable, easy empathy. It's like, yeah, I can relate to that. That means something. Sometimes novelty, sometimes the wow factor of wow. I haven't heard of anybody doing this before. Easy to understand, so that if it sounds very niche or something, very complicated, here's the story. This is what we're doing. We're changing this, but we're doing it in a very specific way, and it's almost kind of you might rule people out who think it's really not for them, and that tension. It's that kind of tension's the word Shane Snow uses. It's that kind of it's what goes on in your mind between what it is and what it could be, and can I play a part in that? This is something I would really like to be a part of. And it's all I realize in a startup, you probably won't have a careers website. But in most of the things you do, make it very personal. The way you market to people, and again, that might be digital, it might be social media, it might be many different ways. It might be email marketing. It's kind of making it personal. Assessments, when you're assessing people, again, make it personal. People want to be hired because of the people they are, and because of what they know, and because of what they can achieve. And the communication has to be very personal. It's not, I don't know if I've got the next slide there. Yeah, it's not this. And the thing is, whenever I show this slide, people afterwards say, "Oh yeah, I've received something like that."
Yeah,
Kind
absolutely.
of,
I did.
Yeah, I mean, this is something, I was obviously taken from LinkedIn. Or I think it's from LinkedIn. I don't know, from a networking thing. And people love it because it's kind of like, we get so many of those all the time. I mean, I do. I get messages like this all the time. People who don't actually understand what I do, but see I've got a number of connections and therefore think they can do something with me. But it's very easy. It's very easy, particularly if in the early stages of a business, if you're automating things, if you're looking to grow quite quickly, to fall into this very unpersonalized. I don't know that you would send something like this out, but to make these requests sound very impersonal, and people don't like that. They will not respond to that. Intelligence-driven future. It is intelligence. You need to, as you grow, anticipate future needs. Talent intelligence is, I suppose, one of the big things at the moment within the recruitment world, within the talent acquisition world. You probably, as a startup, won't have that, but you can build it as you go. Talent intelligence is kind of, I suppose, information on all of the people you have, but not just their backgrounds. It's the work they do. It's their skills. It's their specializations. It's their competencies. As that grows, larger organizations will then be able to map that with external data as well. And it's understanding the people you've got internally, because as I went back to you hiring people who probably could have done the job for where they were, but didn't know it existed. As you grow the startup, it's the internal talent that you'll grow it from. You won't purely just grow people by bringing people in, because those who you've hired from the start and those you've invested in from the start will be the future talent pool leading the business. And the high quality recruitment process, again, in the early days, okay, continually optimizing for speed and stuff, I appreciate is a goal as opposed to something you can start to do. But again, if you start on that footing, if you start with a recruitment process that attracts people, that they feel, you know what, I feel I've given good account of myself, I accept the feedback, I can see that, I can see why maybe it isn't right for me, but that's the kind of thing. It avoids bias, as in you keep hiring the same type of person over and over again. And it's kind of the way you assess, is you assess people for potential, you assess them for what they can achieve. Any questions?
Well, I guess, yeah. Do we have any questions, guys, out there? I see there has been a lot of chatting there, but not questions so far. Well, yeah. Yeah, that somebody's talking about, yeah, just typing a name in an email. It's not about personalization. Well, I think this is true. This is, the big challenge these days is to get it personalized. And there, in our case, there is nothing better as doing your research and, actually not wasting time of somebody whom you don't really know, and you try to outreach, just hoping that they might, have something valuable, hoping you might have something valuable for them.
Yeah, Daria, I see, has asked questions.
Yeah,
Just typing a name in an email is definitely not. Yeah, I agree. Making communication with the candidate more personal. If you've established a connection with them or relationship with them, then yeah, I mean, you can make it more personal. Again, this is much easier in a startup than obviously a large corporate, by making it personal. By actually talking to them as an individual. If you have met them, if you've already interviewed them, you'll understand probably what drives them, what they're interested in. And so you can talk about that. Now, if you've met them and you don't think they're right for you, but you want to keep a relationship with them because they may know people who are right for you, or they might, it's not that they're not right, it might be they're not right now. And so you want a relationship with them, any kind of personal information. And certainly, if you are putting people through assessments, give them that feedback. Nobody likes to do an assessment and just say, it wasn't really what we were looking for. They want the feedback on that. They want to understand how they can improve. It might be a mistake they're making when they apply. It might be a mistake they constantly make in interview. They don't realize they're making because no one's telling them about it. So offer advice. So if you're letting someone down, always give them something positive to take away. And if it's kind of, you want to keep them in the loop, shall we say, for something in the future, then give them information. Say, we're developing all the time. Do you mind if we let you know our updates? Corporate updates or kind of anything like that. Certainly, if you find yourself hiring or scaling at a time where it's almost like you need an event, you need to try and maybe bring some people in for maybe a little reception or a kind of a presentation. Say, you're the kind of people we're looking for, or bring people like that in. So you keep a record of people like that, particularly if it's a not right now candidate, because you never know when you might hire them in the future, and you don't know who they know. So
yeah, we got
couple
more questions there, and I think we have very, very little time left, so we could try to be very fast. Yeah, thank you.
Get in touch with me, Paige, LinkedIn. It's an unusual name. I am the only Mervyn Dinnen, I believe, on LinkedIn. And yeah, if you message me through that, then I'm happy to connect and answer anything you have. I'm not sure what Matthew has in mind there. Do I have to pay for a test task?
Yeah, me neither. I guess if it means that if you require a candidate to go through a test, whether you should be paying him or not, I don't know, maybe something like that.
Compensating in some way, even if it's just feedback. I don't think you would compensate them for that.
Yeah, I don't think so neither. Okay, so let's maybe we have just 1 or 2 more minutes left. I wanted to maybe thank you very much, Mervyn, for this overview. I think a lot of things that really resonate and a lot of things to learn. I would just wanted to maybe quickly jump on what we do at Insquad now. We are a platform. We help clients scale teams with the top-rated remote developers. So we get developers from various regions in the world, like Latin America, Eastern Europe, Asia, and we vet them and we build the profiles, detailed profiles for the candidates, and to then match them with the clients in US and in Europe. And with these detailed profiles, we get very good results for the interview to hire ratio, about 75%. So that's the way we help our customers. And I'm not sure if I could switch to the next slide. Yeah, you could even see a lot of technical data there, like how the candidates have passed quizzes and coding challenges. So ultimately, our goal is to get the right person to right candidate matched with a startup that has been looking for this kind of candidate. And thank you very much, everybody, for being with us today, getting closer to the end. I would like to as a thank you, would like to offer you the QR code with a free demo. And if you book a demo now, you will get a 2 weeks off on every Insquad developer that we do have on your platform. Or if you'd like to do a free advisory session with to talk about how to scale team fast, that would be you could do it with this QR code. Or there would be a separate, again, there could be a separate link. Yeah, there is a button now. And I think, this is it. If if you found this useful, we certainly hope you did. You could connect with me on LinkedIn. If you, Mervyn, it's been a privilege to have you here today. And I'm hoping that all of our visitors had learned something new. And
thank you.
Yeah, and I think
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I would say thank you to all of our visitors, and I think we're done for today. And everybody have a good day. Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, well, I think